If you are in the market for a midsize SUV and you want something that comes standard with all-wheel drive, has some off-road capability, as well as some safety and technology packed into it, you might want to consider this 2024 Honda Passport in the Trailsport trim. Taking a look at the front end of the Passport Trailsport, we have LED fog lights, headlights, and DRLs. Now, headlights and DRLs are standard across all trims. Fog lights, however, are on the Trailsport in Black Edition as standard. The base trim does not get those LED fogs. You do have incandescent turn signals down below, as well as functional pass-throughs on each side going from the front end through that front wheel well. Now, in terms of safety, we only have 2 parking sensors in the front that are tucked away over on each side by these functional air vents or pass-throughs. And so if you do get close to something in the front, it won't sense it until it's over here. So it's a little cumbersome while parking. Now, in most vehicles that are in this $45,000 range and are off-road oriented or trail oriented, they have a front camera system. This, however, does not. Any of the Passports do not. If you go to the Pilot, there is options. The Pilot Trailsport gets a 360 surround view camera, so you get that front camera. This, however, does not, and that is a little bit of a miss, in my opinion, from Honda. Now, in terms of design for the Passport, it's gone relatively unchanged since its mid-cycle refresh in 2022. So I would say that this Passport is due for a major refresh or a redesign altogether. But until then, it is a very strikingly nice vehicle when paired with this radiant red paint color. That is another $450 option when speccing your vehicle out. Taking a look at the wheels, tires, and suspension, we're looking at 18-inch pewter gray 5-spoke design wheels. Wrapped around it are 245/60 R18 General Grabber all-terrains, which is a massive upgrade over previous years where it was just an all-season with a basic suspension. Mostly the Trailsport was just a visual package rather than a functional package. So for the 2024 model year, we not only get all-terrain tires, we also get off-road tuned suspension. The spring rates and damper tuning are adjusted to be better off-road. So we have McPherson strut front and a multi-link rear. So this is a huge upgrade over previous years. So we actually get a functional Trailsport rather than a visual Trailsport. Taking a look at the side design of this Passport Trailsport, you can see that it is stubbier and quite a bit smaller than its big brother, the Pilot, with a wheelbase of 110.9 inches, a length from front to rear, 189.1 inches, and a width side to side, 78.6, and a height of 72.2 from the ground to the top of the roof rack, or the roof rails. Now, these painted sparkled gray roof rails are standard on the Passport Trailsport, as well as the top trim, the Black Edition. Now, these are heated mirrors as standard across all Passport trims. There is blind spot on this vehicle, but it is not indicated on the mirror lens itself. It's actually indicated on the A-pillar inside the vehicle. Now, for ground clearance on this vehicle, we have 8.1 inches that is standard across all trims. Since this is the Passport Trailsport, you would assume that it'd have a better ground clearance than the base trim as well as the Black Edition, but it does not. 8.1 is standard across all trims of the Passport. Now, in the back of the Passport, one important thing nowadays, especially here in the Pacific Northwest, is that you have rear privacy glass. If anybody sees a backpack back there, they're gonna smash that rear window and take that bag right away. So Honda went ahead and installed this privacy glass, and so that is a nice feature to have. Whether it's here in Washington, in California, in San Francisco, there's bag snatchers, so you're gonna want that privacy glass. So that comes standard across all trims. Have a power tailgate that comes standard, but the Black Edition, the top trim, gets a hands-free, so you can go ahead and wave your foot underneath and that rear hatch will open. Now, we have LED taillights, but we do have incandescent turn signals as well as reverse lights down below. We have a backup camera with 4 backup sensors. In the front, remember we had 2, in the back we have 4, so it's a little bit more useful to have 4 sensors rather than the 2 on the sides. So when you are backing up, you're not only gonna have the camera, you're also gonna have the sensors. Now, as I mentioned, in the front, we have that 21.1 degrees of approach angle. In the back, we have 24.3 degrees of departure angle. Now, this vehicle isn't too shabby in the towing department. 5,000 pounds is the max towing weight. But the caveat is that you have to select the utility package, which gets you the crossbars and the tow hitch receiver, which is another $630 on top of the already mid $40,000 vehicle. Over on the driver's side, we have the Passport emblem right there in that nice black color, all-wheel drive in that chrome black, and then up top, this nice badge that says Trailsport in that Trailsport orange that you're not only gonna find on the emblems on the outside, but also on the interior. Down below, you're gonna get 2 exhaust tips, one on the driver's side as well as the passenger side. And again, remember, no tow hitch receiver, as that is extra money when you are equipping this vehicle online or at the dealership. Under the hood, you're going to find a 3.5 liter naturally aspirated V6 motor producing 280 horsepower and 262 pound-feet of torque. This is paired to a 9-speed automatic transmission with all-wheel drive standard, which is the IVTM, Honda's all-wheel drive. Now, all of this together produces 19 city, 24 highway, and 21 miles per gallon combined. Now, one thing to touch on is the transmission. This is a 9-speed, but the big brother, the cousin, however you want to put it, the Pilot, gets a 10-speed. So that might be a hint to the future. When we get a new Passport update or redesign, we might be able to see a 10-speed in the Passport platform. But until then, we'll just have to do with this 9-speed automatic. Now, this is the only drivetrain options for the Passport for the 2024 model year. So you're going to get the V6, all-wheel drive as standard, and the 9-speed automatic transmission. Altogether, not a bad package. In the front seat, you're going to find 40.9 inches of legroom, 39.5 inches of headroom with a sunroof that is standard, that is going to give you just that little bit of extra space, or the feeling of a little bit of extra space as it is open to the outside. Now, you're going to find a leather wrapped heated steering wheel with this orange contrast stitching, nice perforation right where you're going to put your hands, so it is nice to grab. It is a thin steering wheel too, because normally in SUVs, I find that the steering wheels are a little bit thicker. This one is fairly thin for being an SUV. Now, for the seats, you're going to find 10-way power adjustable with power lumbar with 2-position memory over here on the driver's side. And on the passenger side, you're only going to find a 4-way power adjustable seat over there. Now, both these seats are heated. They're not ventilated. They are perforated, but they are not ventilated. If you want ventilated seats, you're going to have to go up to the Black Edition to find both heated and ventilated seats. In the rear seats, you're going to find 39.6 inches of legroom, 40 inches of headroom, and plenty of amenities back here to make it as comfortable as possible for a short or a long trip drive. Now, you have sliding rear seats, so you can go forward, backwards, and all seats do that back here. You also have a little bit of a recline option. You have a handle right here on the side, pull that, and you have just a tad bit of recline to choose from, and you can get a nice comfortable position right there. Put that back up to its upright position. And then if we move over to the other side of the rear seats, we not only have a drop-down cup holder, center armrest, nicely padded. Again, there is orange stitching all throughout this rear interior with nice perforation leather trim seats. Then in the middle, we also have rear HVAC vents. We do not have any HVAC controls back here or climate control options back here, but we have these 2 vents for the driver and passenger side, or however you want to manipulate that. Now, you also have a 115 volt, 150 watt AC charger down here and 2 USB-Cs. You have cargo pockets behind each seat right here. You have 2 cup holders on the driver's side, 2 cup holders over here on the passenger side, and plenty of storage up top where your arm is going to sit on the door sill, as well as down below by the speakers. Now, as I mentioned, this is a power liftgate, but it is not the hands-free that you find on the Black Edition. So if you go ahead and push the button underneath here, you get a chime, and that rear liftgate opens automatically, or not automatically, but with power. Now, behind the second row in this Passport Trailsport, you get 41.2 cubic feet of storage, or 50.5 in max capacity. Now, behind the first row, if you fold down that second row, you get 77.7 or 100.8 max capacity or cubic feet behind that first row. To get that max capacity, you're going to go ahead and push the buttons found back here on the rear hatch. Go ahead and push that. That second row flops down, 60-40 splitting rear seat, push and hold, and you got a perfectly flat floor. So this is a very nice option if you don't want to have to reach over, grab a lever, push it down, so on and so forth. Now, more space underneath the floor here. We have some more storage. If you go ahead and grab this handle and go ahead and pop up that floor just a little bit more, you have a donut spare, a 165/80/17 spare. You have a little bit more storage off to the left, as well as some accessories in there. So you have tons of storage back here, wherever you want to look for. So you have some more storage off to the left on the driver's side of the vehicle, as well as a 12 volt, 180 watt max cigarette lighter on that side. And then on this side, just some more storage, a tie down. Now 100.8 cubic feet of max storage. Let's go ahead and see if me, 6'1", could sleep flat in here. So I am laying 100% flat. And let's see, my feet, I think I could fit. I think I could sleep back here if I really wanted to. 2 people might be tight. You could sleep diagonal if you're above 6'1". But honestly, there is quite a bit of space back here if you do want to go camping. Throw a blanket back here, throw a pillow, and crack a window, you're gonna be just fine back here if you are under the 6-foot mark. Taking a closer look at the interior, you can see we have this orange stitching going all the way down the seat bottom, all the way up the seat back, and even to this Trailsport embroidery right there on the headrest found on the driver's side, as well as the passenger side. Now in the middle, we have a padded center console armrest. Again, double stitching here, double stitching on the other side. If we go ahead and pop this open, we have a pretty spacious center console. We do have removable inserts here, rubber inserts. We do not have any lights, any charging ports, or anything like that. And then also something that's nice is this is either going to be a coin holder, a pen holder, or whatever you want to put in there, but it's a little bit more of a confined space rather than putting it all the way down here where it can slide around. You can put it right there and it keeps it secure. We go ahead and close this. We have a dual cup holder here with a pass-through in the middle, so you can go ahead and put your phone, a wallet, whatever you want to be right there in the middle. These are expandable with a spring-loaded insert. And then off to the other side, we have our gear selector. So we do not have a actual shifter. We do not have a steering column shifter. These are just going to be buttons. So you have your drive, neutral, and then you pull back for your reverse and push for your park. You have your drive mode selector and your auto start stop off button, which you may be utilizing quite often. And we do not have any gloss black down here in these high touch areas. Normally, if a vehicle has gloss black down here, this is where you're going to be putting your keys, your phones, your coins, whatever it may be, and that gets scratched up real easily. Luckily, Honda put a textured plastic in there that complements this black leather trimmed interior very nicely. Now moving up ahead, we have a Qi wireless charger. We have a kind of a rubberized texture here where you can put your wallet, your keys, whatever it may be, and it won't slide around too much. Down below, we have a USB-A, USB-C, and a 12-volt cigarette lighter right there. Not a cigarette lighter, a power outlet right there. Up above, we have a nice little cubby where you can put your wallet, whatever it can fit in there. And then on each side of that, you have your 3-stage heated seat controls. Now up above, we have an 8-inch infotainment system that is angled back away from you, so it will help with glare. Now this is Apple CarPlay and Android Auto capable, but the fact is you have to use a cord. So now it's plugged in, so this will pop up, go to our Apple CarPlay, go through all of the buttons, and it's actually a pretty snappy screen. Nice colors, nice functions, and I do find that the Apple CarPlay works well on this vehicle, but the fact of the matter is it's wired, so it's just a little bit more cumbersome than I'd really like. But overall, nice little 8-inch infotainment system here in the 2024 Passport. So this V6 engine producing nearly 300 horsepower is pretty effective in this SUV, and what I mean by that is in terms of performance. So 0 to 60, I got 6.69 seconds, so it's really not too shabby. Now, if you were to test a 4Runner that has that similar size V6, it's gonna be pretty comparable, maybe just a tad bit slower, as it does have a little bit lesser of a transmission. When you are at lower speeds, I do find that the pedal or the throttle mapping could be improved. And I don't know if that's the 9-speed automatic transmission or it's just the throttle mapping for it being in your normal drive mode, as it does have some other different drive modes that tinker with the all-wheel drive system and the throttle mapping for off-road use, snow use, things of that nature. But just everyday driving in your normal driving mode, I do find that the throttle is just sometimes a little bit too touchy. I have found myself a couple times just over revving. Like I'll press the pedal down and it'll drop a gear, and it's just over revving to where I don't really want to be revving that high. It should be a little bit more gradual, use some more torque rather than gearing to get up to speed. Now, overall, really not a bad performing vehicle, just in everyday use. There are just a couple occasions in terms of throttle mapping where I would like some improvement. When we get that 10-speed, it might just be a little bit better for the gearing ratios. It might be a little bit better just in everyday drivability as well as performance. And overall, relatively a decently performing car. It's not the fastest on the market, it's not the slowest, and it's just a good middle ground if you are looking for a mid-size SUV, something that does have some off-road capability. You have all-terrain tires on here, off-road suspension, decent power, as well as good on-road economy that we'll talk about here in just a few minutes. Overall, a good package in terms of performance. Now, in terms of braking, I did get a 60 to 0 mile per hour test of 143 feet. While doing that, I set my cruise control at 60 miles per hour and went ahead and jammed the brakes about as hard as I could on a safe open road. There was no cars around, no people around, and I got 143 feet. While doing that, ABS kicked on. There was some tire chirping, and definitely would have drawn a crowd if there were people around to see, because it was quite loud. Now you can feel the ABS kick in through the brake pedal, which I personally love, and I like to feel what the safety systems are doing. So when you are slamming the brakes like that, doing an evasive maneuver, or trying to save yourself from hitting a deer, hitting a tumbleweed out in eastern Washington, or whatever it may be, if you're jamming on those brakes, you're gonna know it by the tires chirping as well as the ABS kicking in. So it's a little bit grabby at times, depending on the situation. But I do find that the first initial little bit of the brake pedal is a little bit sloppy in my opinion. But if you are applying the brakes relatively aggressively, not slamming on them like I was just talking about 60 to 0, but I'm just talking like pretty aggressively. If you're coming up to a corner just a little bit too fast and you want to go ahead and put those brakes on relatively hard, it is pretty confidence inspiring. It feels old school. And what I mean by that is you don't feel disconnected from the braking system. But overall, I do feel safe in this vehicle. I do feel like those brakes are going to stop me every time, and they're not going to fade too bad. If you are going to be aggressively driving this vehicle, don't really know why you would, as this is a trail oriented vehicle. It's going to handle it. It's going to handle it just fine. Now, how does the Passport handle? Again, this is a trail off-road type vehicle, so you're not going to be going around corners. You're not going to be bombing the back roads. But if you do happen to find yourself on the back road and you want to just let go a little bit and under the speed limit, go around corners quickly, the all-wheel drive system, the iVTM from Honda, does handle very well. And reason being is that it is a torque vectoring system rather than a brake vectoring all-wheel drive system. What I mean by that is if you are going around a corner and you apply throttle through the corner, it will apply power to that outside wheel via a clutch pack rather than a brake vectoring all-wheel drive system where it clamps the brake on the wheel that has less traction and then moves that torque or that power to the wheel that needs the power. This just automatically knows which wheel needs the most torque and sends the power there. Now up on my dash here, you can see that I have the iVTM4 torque system on my display. What this will show is I'll be going downhill here, so it's not going to be a great representation, but if I go around this corner, if I slow down and I throttle through this, you're going to be able to see that it applied pretty even torque from the front wheels to that back right wheel. As I was turning left, it's going to apply it to that outside wheel and not to that inside wheel as well. Now this is a front wheel drive bias all-wheel drive system, so when you are just cruising on the road, it is going to be primarily front wheel drive until needed. It will apply power or torque to those rear wheels where it's needed. So handling is going to be a B- in my opinion, because it is an off-road vehicle, but actually handles corners relatively well. And that plays into the overall ride quality, which I would also rate at a B, not a B-, but a B. And the reason is when you are just cruising on the road, the off-road suspension, it being softer, actually complements the ride of the vehicle pretty well. So as we're gonna turn onto this main road right here, this is gonna be more of a cruising scenario. So as you can see up here on our dash is going to be mostly a front wheel drive right now as we're just cruising. So once we get down in the gears and it's going to just start cruising around 45 to 50 miles an hour, you're going to see that as I'm going around that corner, that outside wheel still getting power, and that kind of dissipates as we get up to a cruising speed, and then it'll just be front wheels. Now if I go ahead and apply the throttle, you're going to see that all four wheels are going to get power, and it does pull like a front wheel drive vehicle in certain scenarios. Like it kind of feels like there's some torque steer. But if you do find yourself on a pretty rough road, a gravel road, whatever it may be, this Passport Trailsport handles it well. You have the big sidewall on those tires as well as the off-road tuned suspension. So it's going to handle any imperfections in the road fairly well. And as I mentioned, the interior cabin noise is compromised a little bit by those all-terrain tires, those General Grabber all-terrains that are equipped on the 24 Passport Trailsport. Now, yes, that will help off-road, but there is some compromise to be made while on-road. Overall, interior cabin noise is not too bad. As I always mention, I rate my interior cabin noise on the same road right outside my place at 50 miles per hour, sunroof slider closed, with the decibel reader right here between the passenger and driver seat at about head height. I got 65.8 decibels, so around 66 decibels interior cabin noise at 50 miles per hour. So a little bit louder than some competitor vehicles, but overall not too bad. Now for the most important rating, and that is fuel economy. Nowadays, Fuel is expensive, so you're really going to want the most economy, most bang for your buck, no matter what vehicle you buy, whether it be a sedan, a midsize SUV, a full-size SUV, and there is trade-offs, right? If you're going to want a performance vehicle, you're going to get less gas mileage in a sense, and if you're going to want an economy vehicle, you're going to get a less performance or off-road oriented vehicle. Again, there's caveats to that because nowadays there's hybrid technology, electric technology. But for your naturally aspirated V6, this doesn't get that bad of gas mileage. For 21 miles per gallon combined, beats the heck out of the 4Runner, which is a comparable vehicle in the sense that it's also an off-road oriented SUV, midsize SUV. That gets 17 miles per gallon combined. Atrocious in terms of miles per gallon sense. 21 miles per gallon, much better than 17. That's gonna really add up over time. So comparing it to some of its competitors like the Grand Cherokee or the 4Runner, the Grand Cherokee gets similar fuel economy at 22 miles per gallon. So overall, it's right there with the competitors. It's really close to the best of the best in terms of naturally aspirated V6s. Now, obviously you could go for the Grand Cherokee 4xe, or you could go for some turbocharged models or some hybrids, and they're gonna blow this out of the water. But in terms of comparable engine powertrain options, this really isn't too shabby. Now, there's not a lot of variability in the pricing of the Passport, and that is due in part by the fact there's only one powertrain, and that is a 3.5 liter V6 that produces 280 horsepower and 262 pound-feet of torque, paired to a 9-speed automatic transmission and the iVTM all-wheel drive that comes standard throughout the trim levels. Now, our vehicle is the Trailsport, so we do get the little bit of off-road features, and that has a starting price of $44,500, $455 extra for the radiant red paint, with the destination, which is $1,375. Our total MSRP is looking at $46,330 for the vehicle that we reviewed today. Competition for the Passport is immense. There's lots of vehicles in this category, but there's two that I'm gonna highlight today, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. So starting off, we have the Jeep Grand Cherokee, which is gonna have a starting price of $38,000 for the Laredo rear-wheel drive. But if you want four-wheel drive to compare with the price entry of the Passport EXL, you're going to add $2,000 to that with a starting price for a 4x4 Grand Cherokee of $40,035. Now that has an 8-speed transmission, a 3.6 liter naturally aspirated V6, 293 horsepower and 260 pound-feet of torque. Now for the 4Runner, we're looking at an entry price of $40,705, SR5 2-wheel drive, add 4-wheel drive to that or option that out, you're going to be looking at $42,580. Now that Toyota 4Runner is equipped with that naturally aspirated 4-liter V6 producing 270 horsepower and 278 pound-feet of torque paired to a 5-speed automatic transmission. Now the Passport gets 21 miles per gallon combined in all trims. The Grand Cherokee is looking at 22 miles per gallon combined, and the 4Runner is dead last in this comparison with a combined miles per gallon of 17. Not very great in the grand scheme of things. We're looking at ground clearance of 8.1 for the Passport, 8.4 for the Grand Cherokee, and 9 inches for the 4Runner. Now, tow capacity is similar between the Passport and the 4Runner, 5,000 pounds for the Passport as well as up to 5,000 pounds for the 4Runner. Now, the Grand Cherokee does have options for a V8, so you can get a tow capacity up to 7,200 pounds, but with that V6, you're looking at 6,200 pounds when equipped properly with the tow packages. Now, total passenger volume, so total interior capacity for the vehicles themselves, it's going to be 114.9 cubic feet for the Passport, 144 cubic feet for the Grand Cherokee, so quite a bit larger, and the 4Runner is going to be fairly similar to the Passport at 128 cubic feet. Now, who do I think the Passport is for? I think it's for any adventure-minded people or just a family that is looking for an out-of-the-box great family vehicle. You're getting good reliability, decent fuel economy, good interior space, and also a trim level that gives you off-road capability, and that is in the Trailsport trim. Now, we had the Trailsport trim, and there isn't too much setting it apart from the other trims in terms of ground clearance, suspension, things like that, but the all-terrain tires do help in the grand scheme of things. So you get all-wheel drive standard in the Passport, you get decent fuel economy, and it's also spacious with an off-road variant. I think it's a good recipe for a family vehicle, especially if you are, like I said, adventure-minded. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments about the 2024 Honda Passport Trailsport. Do you think that you are okay with this design and interior features and things of that nature, or do you want Honda to kind of put some pressure on this trim or this vehicle and get an updated version, some more off-road capability in the Trailsport trim? And just let me know what you think down in the comments. My name is Nick with Auto Buyers Guide, and until the next video, I will see you guys then.